This was punishment to the king. And sure enough, the king soon died. Uzziah had overstepped the boundary of his kingship. It was a fatal mistake. We'll come back to this story. The phrase, separation of church and state, is not found on any document written by the founders of this nation. The intention of the framers of the Constitution, who wrote the first 10 amendments, and certainly the first one, were quite clear. This is how this part of the First Amendment reads. And I want you to know, all of this we wanted to have up on the wall here, but the email got mixed up. Okay? This is how the First Amendment reads as it relates to religion. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What did that mean? Well, back in England, old King George had made the Anglican Church, which is the Episcopal Church here in America, King George had made the Anglican Church the national church. To be sure, the Anglican Church was a Christian church, but the founders of our country didn't want any denomination to have national church status here in America. It destroys individual choice and freedom. So, as it is written, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. In other words, what if Congress were to say, you know, John Wesley is really popular at this time in our history. Let's make the Methodist Church the national church. Well, as Methodists, we have a sense of pride, but what a foolish thing to do. There was no way the founders of this nation were going to make that mistake. They had just left England. They didn't want there to be a national church. Have as many denominations as you want out there, America, but not one of them stands foot and center ahead of all the others by being called the national church. This is the first part of the First Amendment as it relates to religion, and it's called the Establishment Clause. I know, Jack, you are well up on that. The Establishment Clause. But there's more to the First Amendment than just no national church. The second part reads, Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What did that second half mean? It means that the government cannot stop or control how, when, where people exercise their religious beliefs. And the government by no means can dictate the beliefs of religious people. It was pure religious freedom. You see, when you have a national church, the religious beliefs of that national church are going to be imposed upon the people. So the founders weren't going to buy that at all, were they? And beyond that, people in their local communities were free to work out what they wanted to have in terms of religious practices within the community. The national government wasn't going to dictate the terms of that at all. Can you see the liberty, the freedom that's given to the American people by this First Amendment? It was pure genius on the part of our founders. In the United States congressional records, every time Congress meets, whether it's tomorrow or 3 weeks ago, whatever is said, whatever is spoken, whatever action is taken, it's recorded in the congressional record, and it is kept forever. In the United States congressional records dating from June 7th to September 25th, 1789, okay? Congress held debates on the meaning of that First Amendment. At the conclusion of those debates, Congress said that the intent of the framers were twofold, and this is precisely what is written in the congressional record. 1, the government is prohibited from making any denomination a national church. 2, the government cannot limit the free exercise expressions of the people. Now, it's almost word for word what the amendment itself had said a few years earlier. But they wanted to go on record and clear what that First Amendment says. Is there any doubt with anyone here what the intent, the original intent of the founders were? There shouldn't be any doubt at all. In both parts of the First Amendment, it is clear that the amendment does not allow government to interfere with religion. By this 1789 review of Congress, there were many different Christian denominations popping up all over the nation. Methodism, one of them. None were given an advantage over the others, and no Christians were prohibited the free exercise of their faith. On November 7th, 1801, the Baptists of Danbury, Connecticut, wrote their new president a letter. They were concerned. Why? They were concerned that the expression, the free exercise of religion, they were concerned that it even appeared in the First Amendment. Now, at first you might think, Baptist? Why, you think they would jump on top of their pews and would shout hooray that the government is protecting the free exercise of religion. Good grief, if the Baptists aren't excited about that, would we Methodists ever get excited about that? But there was a reason these Danbury Baptists wrote this letter to Thomas Jefferson, the new president at that time. To them, the First Amendment implied that the government could foreseeably see itself as having the right to regulate religious expression, since the government presently sees itself as the protector of that religious expression, thus implying that someday the government could take that right away from the people if it so chose. They believed that the freedom of religion was a God-given, God-granted, unalienable right, and that the government should be powerless to restrict religious expression. Now do you see why those Baptists wrote that letter? There was purpose to their letter. What they were saying in essence was, why do you need a First Amendment at all? Because if the government has the power to protect religious expression, at some day that same government can come back and restrict that freedom.